Today, we will tell you the miraculous story of Our Lady of Aparecida, the statue which is visited by millions of Our Lady of Guadalupe devotees every year. Their boat was small and old, with a capacity for only 15 passengers. But it was overloaded with more than 30 men, women and children, plus pigs and chickens, and they were all heading to the festival of at this moment. Our Lady of the Rosary, who was originally from Portugal, on the way, they met the village priest, Father Antonio de São José. Those who touched the statue were cured of various ailments, and the blind regained their sight. News of these events spread quickly throughout the region, and thousands of pilgrims began to arrive at the church to ask for the intercession of Our Lady of the Rosary. Soon, the sanctuary grew, and the original chapel built of straw. In 1946, the tomb of the first priest who served in the sanctuary, Father Antonio de São José. Those who cannot make the pilgrimage visit the sanctuary virtually and kiss the screen, displaying the image of the Virgin's foot through a live webcam. For example, there are many families who have a picture of Our Lady of Aparecida in their homes. And once the favor is granted, they fulfill their promise by going to the sanctuary of Our Lady of Aparecida, or by simply lighting a candle in her honor. In short, Our Lady of Aparecida is much more than a religious figure. She is a symbol of hope, faith, and healing for the Brazilian people. The story of how her statue arrived in Brazil is a testament to her power, and the miracles attributed to her continue to amaze and inspire millions of people around the world. Before eating, they say the prayer of thanks and place an extra chair at the table, and children are taught to pray to her for protection before leaving home. Brazilians believe that Our Lady of Aparecida watches over them wherever they go. In addition, in times of trouble, Brazilians never hesitate to ask Our Lady of Aparecida for help. For them, she's the mother who listens to her children and intercedes for them before God. Thousands of testimonies attest to the favors granted by Our Lady of Aparecida, but one of them stands out above all others. It is the case of Didina Costa, who, in 1984, also remembered to support us by leaving a thumbs up, subscribing, and activating the bell button. Thank you very much for watching this video. We ask you to remember us in your prayers, and until here, we have been your host. Goodbye. After undergoing risky surgery, desperate for her situation, her husband took her to the sanctuary of Our Lady of Aparecida, where after placing the woman at the feet of the statue, from that moment on, Dindin began to feel strange sensations in her legs. Since then, she has told her story to thousands of people and has become one of the main promoters of the cult of Our Lady of Aparecida. Was opened, and it was found that despite having died in 1759, therefore he was declared venerable. But the most striking event occurred in 1957 when workers were building the current basilica. Suddenly, the crane carrying a marble column suddenly stopped working. At that moment, a woman named Maria de Santa Rosa, later venerated as servant of God, raised her arms towards heaven and asked Our Lady of Aparecida to make the crane move. As if by magic, the machine moved and the rest of the construction went ahead without any problems. Since then, Maria Lucia became known as the woman who stopped time, because everything indicated that the movement of the crane was a miracle. Later, a monastery was built there, and in 1869, the Catholic Church officially proclaimed Our Lady of Aparecida. He invited them to take the image to the local church. However, the group could not fulfill this mission because they did not know the location of the supposed temple. But the next day, guided by an inexplicable force, Our Lady of the Rosary, and found the church of Our Lady of the Rosary, and had been brought to Brazil for the aforementioned festival, appeared in the form of a beautiful black woman. She said, "Don't be afraid. I am the Virgin Mary. Also remember to share your experiences and comments in the comment box below. This is the Holy Child Jesus, and I want to tell you that you are saved." It is the second largest Catholic shrine in Brazil, only surpassed by the famous sanctuary of Our Lady of the Apocalypse. In 1956, the current basilica was built, which can accommodate up to 45,000 faithful. However, every year on the Saturday closest to October, the basilica fills up and overflows onto the streets. As on that day, hundreds of thousands of Brazilian Catholics come to Aparecida, and just as she was saying these words, she stretched out her right hand, blessed them, and disappeared. Suddenly, they saw how the sea around them calmed down, and immediately inflating their sails so much that the boat began to advance rapidly. The 4 people on board were filled with joy and thanked Our Lady of the Rosary for saving them. However, as they continued to advance, they realized that they were going in the opposite direction. They wanted to reach the port of São Matias, but now they were headed to the beach near where the river Paraíba do Sul flows into the sea, due to the force of the wind. They could not change course. They could not change course. And finally ended up on the beach where they had seen Our Lady of the Rosary. When they arrived, it was already dark, and they spent the night praying and singing religious songs until dawn. Our Lady of the Rosary that was going to take place in the coming days. The trip took longer than expected, and at some point during the journey, those who could no longer endure the situation began to disembark. One after another, they jumped into the water until there were only 4 left on board. Our story begins in the early morning hours of October 12, 1717, when a group of fishermen were sailing from the port of Paraíba do Sul, today's name Paranaguá, in the south of Brazil, to the capital of Salvador. These 4 shipwrecked people were Dom Francisco de Oliveira, the captain of the ship, and one other man called João. As soon as the first rays of sunlight touched the horizon, they went ashore and decided to carry the statue of Our Lady of the Rosary to the nearest church. From this moment on, miracles began to happen. Before we continue with the story, please leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't yet. Currently, the sanctuary of Our Lady of Aparecida is located 120 kilometers on the banks of the Paraíba do Sul River, where the miracle happened. But this is not the only surprising fact related to this sanctuary. In addition, according to popular tradition, anyone who visits the sanctuary of Our Lady of Aparecida must perform a ritual that consists of kissing the marble foot of the statue. For Brazilians, Our Lady of Aparecida is much more than a religious figure. She is a symbol of hope, faith, and healing. Finally, it is also common for Brazilians to promise offerings to Our Lady of Aparecida. Now, we invite you to tell us in the comment box below, have you experienced Or do you think she will perform in your life